Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Hiltz, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Apple Report. We're going to talk about charter schools today as well as for the next couple of weeks because there's been quite a bit of publicity or news reporting with regards to the current administration and their stance with regards to charter schools. And I'll say up front that it's not friendly. So let's begin by giving some definition to what charter schools are and how the approval process works. Now, all states do not have legislation that authorizes charter schools, but there are many that do. I believe there are 41 states and the District of Columbia that have legislation that allows for charter schools to be created within the state. And what I'm most familiar with is the state of Virginia because that's where I held public office. I was an elected school board member, and so I'm much more familiar with the state of Virginia and their state statutes, their code. So let's talk about the approval process. In the state of Virginia, there is legislation that authorizes charter schools to be created. There's an application process, and that application is completed, and it goes to the state school board, for a review. But then, once they give their review and their recommendation, then it goes to the local school board for approval. Now, in my opinion, that's why there's only 8 operating charter schools in the state of Virginia, because they don't want the competition. And when I looked last year to see how many charter schools there were that were operating in the state, there were 8. There's one that's going through the process. Now, I did find some information also that the state board recommended approval of previous charters, but then when it went to the local school board, it was either denied or still under review. So, competition is good in most cases. I think competition is good in education as well. But traditional public schools do not want charter schools in the state of Virginia to come into their district. One of the reasons for that is because they say it takes away money from the school. Well, charter schools are part of the public school system, and the reality is that, for example, say your school district, the per pupil cost to educate a child, say in your school district, is $10,000. My research that I've done reflects or reveals that most states do not give 100% of that per pupil cost to a charter school. In a lot of cases, it's 50 to 75% of that 10,000. So it's somewhere between 5,000 and 7,500 as a general rule. This is obviously, you have to look at the state that you live in to get the exact numbers. But only a percentage of the per pupil cost goes from the traditional public school to the charter school for the student who gets enrolled in the charter school. Now, to me, that's a savings to the taxpayer, but not everybody looks at it that way. So the argument from traditional public school is that charter schools take funding away from the traditional public school. Well, I guess you could argue that either way, but I tend to look at it as it's a cost savings to the taxpayer, and the parent is choosing to put the child in the charter school as well. So research also shows, Dr. Thomas Sowell did a book on charter schools named Charter Schools and Their Enemies, and it is research-based. And in almost every case that he reflected, charter schools outperformed the traditional public school. So there again, are we concerned about the quality of education for children, Or are we concerned about the tax dollars and who they go to and who has control and authority over them? So there's a couple of things that I mentioned is that charter schools are part of the public education system. Funding is always an argument from the non-school choice or the anti-school choice advocates. And we talked about the approval process. Now, again, that is state driven, so you have to look at your state code or state statute to see who the approving authority is. But one other thing I want to quickly mention is that charters operate under an approved charter. They are usually a focused curriculum, STEM related, arts related, career and technical education related. So there again, that they're focused, they're intentional with regards to their curriculum, and they are reviewed based on their performance. So that's another plus in my mind with regards to why charter schools should not be eliminated as a choice for parents. So we'll stop here for this week. We will further this discussion next week, over the next couple of weeks actually. And we'll talk a little bit about what the current administration has to say about charter schools, and then we'll talk about the why. So please like and share this, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Take care.